Majority Leader, we're live.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee meeting for today, July 20th, 2021. My name is Councilman TJ Clark, and I serve as the committee's co-chair of this committee, as well as the majority leader for the City Council. And we are joined by our co-chair, Councilman James Sanchez. And also, too, we have with us Councilman John Gale and Councilman Nick LeBron. And we looks like we have our Corporation Counsel with us, Natalie Fiola Guerreri, our Assistant Chief, Rafael Medina III, our Director of Emergency Services and Technology, Director Sue Webster, our Interim Chief of the Fire Department, Chief Rodney Barkle, as well as our Chief of Police, Jason Thody. We have our council aide, Haley Green Ortiz, and we are also broadcasting live by Hartford Public Access TV on a plethora of platforms now, including Roku, which is cool. So we're going to get started. Right now, I would say let's actually go with an update from the Chief of Fire.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Chief.
Thank you for having me, sir. If I can share my screen with you so that you all will be able to see the PowerPoint presentation. Are you able to see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, so for the first slide, general updates, COVID-19, no PPE procurements are needed. As you can see from the slide, we've actually delivered 597,676 pieces of pandemic equipment since its inception. We have a good supply of pandemic items in stock, and we've delivered over 110,000 pieces of pandemic supplies delivered since inception. We also delivered 151 air purifiers since an inception throughout various city agencies, throughout City Hall and L&I, Health and Human Services, DPW, and HPD. Recently updated our COVID-19 policy to reflect the CDC guidelines, state and city policy as well. We've taken possession of our new aerial apparatus. It is a straight stick rear mount. The guys on the line actually love it. There was some apprehension at the beginning, but through numerous training sessions with our training department and the members of HFD, those individuals have grown to love our new straight stick. It's more agile than the platform. It's able to get into the narrower sections of the city. And as I said before, the guys they're absolutely happy with it. We're looking forward to the delivery of our second straight stick sometime early next year. These are the two engines, Engine 2 and Engine 5, that we recently acquired. Those have been on the line for approximately 5 months now, and guys are enjoying those as well. We implemented our new records management system, ERS, Emergency Reporting System. It's a bit of a learning curve from Firehouse, but we're still working out some of the kinks. Guys, you know, with any new technology, there is a slight learning curve, nothing that can't be overcome We're constantly updating our systems and getting the kinks out. And we do have a Hartford Fire Department work group where if there are any issues that needs to be reported, those can be sent via email to that work group and the appropriate personnel will look at it. Recent community partners, we partner with URL, The Right to Be. They're a statewide initiative group to help spread the message of getting vaccinated. So our partnership included posters placed on each firehouses in English and in Spanish with that message, and the information on those posters contains the number to call if you need to get vaccinated or if you're just looking for general COVID information. We partnered with Greater Hartford Arts Council. That was a distribution of PPE to the arts community. And we partnered with Connecticut After School Network, which was a partnership for more PPE distribution for the after school programs. So in total, it was 158,848 pieces of PPE distributed between the two organizations. So this is our June fire stat data. As you can see, the structure fires for the month of June pretty much remain steady. If you look at June 2021, we started tracking a new statistic where when dispatch receives the call. So that's why you can see the declination in percentage. Now, from 80% to 54%, it shows that from the time the call is taken to the time the first unit arrives at a structure fire, it's taken a little longer. So before we got the new CAD system, we weren't able to track that data from the time the call was taken. So the total turnout time in some cases was a little longer than 6 minutes, 20 seconds. So that's why you see the declination in June. EMS responsible data citywide, you can see we've been pretty steady across the board at ranging around 77%. So our emergency response data, this is in relation to each neighborhood NRZ. You can see for the month of June, we had a total of 1,669 calls for service. 919 of those calls were EMS motor vehicle accidents without injuries, and 449 of them was medical assist EMS by EMS personnel. So the incident type is to the right, and then the description, and then the number of calls is all the way to the right. Rescue calls for the month of June, we had a total of 24. And if you look at the neighborhood zone map, you can see Northeast downtown had 3 rescue calls for service, which was typically it's a lockout. And then everywhere else had either 1 or 2 calls. So these are all the fires for the month of June. We had a total of 60 fires, 12 of those fires being building fires, 8 of them was outside rubbish trash, 7 of those fires dumpster fires or other outside receptacles. And looking at the neighborhood zones, you can see that Berry Square, South End, and Clay Arsenal had the most calls for service in relation to structure fires. So this map.
I do have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt. Through
Yes,
you,
sir.
Chair. Yeah, those that 111 building fires. What was the what was the general cause of those fires?
So that I can answer that question for you in the next slide, sir.
Okay.
But this number to the left, the 111, that's just the inference code that we use to describe a structure fire. So 151 means it was outside rubbish. 154 means it was a dumpster. 118 trash, and so on and so forth. Those are just the coded numbers that we use to describe a particular type of fire. This number on the right is the number of those particular fires that we had.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir. And so this last slide is the location of structure fires in relationship to the fire stations. So as you can see, where you see engine 7, and then these are the incidents. We had a total of 11 incidents. So engine 2, where you see a 5 and a 3, that correlates to these two particular incidents. So like incident 5 was at 453 Albany, and there was a porch fire. So you can tell from this map which firehouse had the most structure fires for the month of June. Like engine 10 had 3, engine 8 had 2, engine 2 had 2, and those are just the first 2 engine companies. When you look at the color, you'll see that the blue represents that the first arriving engine made it there in under 6 minutes and 20 seconds. And then the red is that the first 2 engine made it there greater than 6 minutes and 20 seconds. We had no firefighter injuries or fatalities or civilian injuries for the month of June. This is our demographics for the Hartford Fire Department. As you can see, we have a total of 346 members. 183 of those members still reside in Hartford, 16 females, 330 males, 117 Caucasian, 1 Indian, 119 Hispanic, 109 Blacks. This is the percentage of the demographics. And the officer percentage, as you can see from this slide, this number for Black officers is slightly off. It's 25. It's 22 instead of 25. And we have 52 white officers and 38 Hispanic officers. This next pie chart delineates the male to female officers. As you can see, we have 6 female officers and 109 male officers. And that's my presentation. Any questions, sir?
Yes, I do. Thank you for the presentation. Is there, within this fiscal year, an upcoming fire class? And if so, how many?
Yes, sir. We're hoping to get that class started the first week in September. Currently, we're looking for 14 to 20 individuals. We do have a number of personnel that could potentially retire between that time now and September. So that's why the number is kind of fluctuating. And we're hoping that if that does occur, it'll be before we get into week 3 of the academy. That way we can replace that individual with another candidate.
Around what time is it projected that you're going to have an exodus with the potential retirees?
Well, so currently we have about 20 members with 20 plus years that can leave at any time. But like I said, we have 3 or 4 members who's been inquiring about their time. So they're not 100% sure that they're going to leave, but they're potentially, they could potentially leave between now and September. So they haven't given us a definitive date, but they've inquired that they could potentially leave. We do have a few members that's been on long-term injury that could potentially be separated within the next week if they do not provide sufficient information to benefits.
Okay.
And that's about three more individuals.
So with those potential retirees exiting, what roles do they play? Are they the line crew? Are they drivers? Or do they play a critical role in the operations of the fire department?
Yes, sir. 3 of those individuals are suppression members. 3 of those individuals are suppression. 1 of those individuals it's currently assigned to support. So The suppression members are a critical aspect of day-to-day operations, as well as the support. We're kind of short-staffed in that division as it is. We're currently working on a plan to do more testing and figure out a more amicable way to keep that division staffed in the future once we do start hiring for it again.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard about the inadequate amount of staff and support services, which I think is critical. So I would love to catch up with you regarding that and what type of ideas that can be floated around regarding supporting you all.
Yes, sir.
I believe Councilman Sanchez, you had a question.
Yes, I have about 3 of them. So just to follow up, how many of the retire or the personnel that's planning to retire are officers, and what positions are those?
So currently we're looking at 3 lieutenants, 1 on the heavy rescue, 2 on the engines, who could potentially leave at any time after today. And then there is 2 in support and 1 firefighter.
Okay. And then is there a qualification list to fill in these positions, or would they have to follow protocol for promotions for the other officers?
So we currently still have an existing lieutenants list. We do not have a certified firefighter list. Every other list has been exhausted with the exception of a captain, line captain. So we have been meeting with HR to discuss how to go about to discuss the drivers, lieutenants, captains, and other vacant positions so that we can begin the test for those.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question, the emergency response system, I understand it's a learning curve. So what does it entail, and just, a short description on how do you use the system, and what's the difficulty in it?
So yes, sir. So what ERS is our records management system. So every time we get a call, when the computer aided dispatch dispatches the call along with assignments, that information is ported over to our records management system. And so once we complete an incident, we fill out those reports so that those reports can be forwarded to the state, and we can have a record of everything that we do. So if we did extrication, our cost recovery partners could look at that and see exactly what we did, and they could bill for it. So if we had an EMS call, our EMS providers can see what we did in terms of CPR, or if we did gave O2 or whatever medical supplies we used. So the way we log it and we classify everything is different from the way we used to do it, because we had Firehouse for over 15 years. So guys was just used to doing it one way. And this new technology is just a different way of doing things. It is more in-depth and specific when you go to each module, whether it be incidents or PCRs for patient care. But that's some of the learning curve. It's not very difficult. It's just one of those things you have to get used to.
Okay, so it's basically more of so this system kind of records more accurately the data that's necessary and the performance that's been completed.
Yes, sir. And some of the difficulty is, it's 2 brand new systems. So there are a few kinks when the CAD is talking to ERS, and sometimes data is not ported over correctly. So, but we do have the ability to go in, run a report, see what's wrong, and correct the issue. So that's why I said we do have the working group. So any issues that we find, we automatically vet the issues, and then whatever we can't fix on our end, we forward that information to ESNT and they correct it.
Okay, good. So that's already in place. I appreciate
Yes.
that. And then my last question, with the COVID policy, what are the changes that's been implemented? Of course, we have to follow the CDC and the state. So what are the differences, and what are we looking at with this Delta COVID that's going around now?
Well, yes, sir. So what we did was, and this was slightly before the Delta variant started picking up pace. What we did was, because the COVID policy was being relaxed, we started opening up firehouses, and we implemented that. We let family begin to visit the firehouses again. So some guys were working 24 and 48 hours. So we did allow family members to visit the firehouses. And we followed the protocol that they still had to remain masked up. We allowed for the firehouse doors to be open so that, the public can see and speak with their firefighters on a daily basis, like they did pre-COVID. But most of our members have taken advantage of vaccination opportunities. There are a few who choose not to, but on the same token, we've been pretty good at staying safe when it comes to emergency services and being around unvaccinated populations. So, but we still have our COVID meetings with Health and Human Services, and the variants are a topic of discussion. We're not seeing a big rise in cases, but there is a spike, and the discussions are being had with what our next steps would look like in terms of keeping the city and the members and employees safe.
So does that include a adequate supply of PPE?
Yes, sir. As I stated before, as a EMD, we currently have an adequate supply of pandemic equipment and materials, and face masks, gloves, gowns, Tyvek suits. We have enough vital oxide, which is something we use to sanitize the apparatuses and the firehouses. So we've been pretty good on that front. So if another wave should hit, we'll definitely be ready.
All right, and lastly, I was going to ask another question, but I must ask, because I did visit a few firehouses the last couple of weeks, and so my question for the firehouses, it seems to me that the condition of the firehouses is now to par. What plans do we have in place so that we can either recondition the firehouses, renovate, or what have you? I mean, is there anything in place?
Yes, sir. We do have a capital improvement plan, one that we haven't had in a while. And so we survey all of our firehouses. As you know, each firehouse, the average age of our firehouses is 75 years. So we've done the survey of each firehouse, and the next firehouse to be renovated was Engine 11 on Sisson Avenue. We was awarded, I believe, $1.2 million, but looking at some of the renovations that needed to be done, it significantly increased the cost. When last spoken with DPW, they were requesting additional funds to complete the cost amount for that particular firehouse. And then once that one is renovated, we'll move on to the next one that's the most in need of repair, which would be Engine 5.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief Barco. Any questions from the rest of the committee? Saying none. Chief, I'm not sure if you did mention this. I do apologize. When is the next class supposed to start? And did the recruiting start already?
Yes, sir. We're looking for the first week in September. The written portion has been done. The physical agility has been done. Right now, we're just waiting on the certified list from HR, and then we'll begin interviews and backgrounds.
Approximately how many, or as I can't say approximately, but maybe an estimate of how many applicants does the city have?
I believe we started out with a little over, I want to say like 298, ended up after the written with somewhere around 160.
Okay. All right. And my last question, how's your transition been?
It's been excellent. I got a good team. Chief Freeman definitely gave me the playbook. It's just a matter of figuring out when to use it at the right time.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. And, we support you, and, please don't hesitate to give us a call to let us know if how we can be more supportive of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're just going to go back up to the couple of resolutions on the agenda. I thank Chief Barco for his presentation. Item number 1 on our agenda is a resolution requesting that the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee of the Court of Common Council take up at its next meeting the question of what recommendations to make, if any, concerning the impending negotiation of the police union contract labor between the police union, the union, and the city of Hartford, which was item 16 on April 12th agenda. My question this is to Attorney Viola Guerreri. When is HPD up for contract negotiation with the city?
The contract, I believe, particular resolution says that it expired in June.
Yeah, that's not correct. The
Yeah.
contract expires next June of 2022.
June 30th, 2022.
June 30th, 2022. Okay.
Right. So negotiations would have to commence before that.
Yeah, usually 6 months, usually January.
Okay, so this is kind of premature.
Yes.
And I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the only people in the room for negotiation is the office of the mayor, the office of the corporation counsel, a representative of the police union, representatives rather, the police chief, correct, and HR. Am I missing anybody else?
No, I'm not. The chief's not usually in there. There's a representative from the department, but it's usually HR, corporation counsel, the union. I believe the union has a committee, negotiation committee. So it'll usually be the union president, and they'll appoint a couple people to a committee, and then that they're the ones that kind of go into the room and hash it out.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Each side would have a negotiating team, and they would go back and forth with proposals and responses.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, I have a question for Attorney Guerreri. Did I pronounce it right?
Boy, that sounds very exotic. It's Viola Guerreri. Yeah.
I recall in the last council, in the meeting with the MARB, that they were going to allow at the very minimum 2 seats of council members to attend in these negotiations. Is that still, do you recall that? And if so, do we have the information on that?
I don't recall that. I have not heard of that, but you know, we could certainly look into that and get back to you as to what that status of that is.
Okay, I appreciate that. If you would, please. And now, being that Councilman Mictum and Councilwoman Bermudez are not online, I was hoping that they can withdraw this resolution, but at this moment, I'd like to make a motion to postpone it, and with the intention of having a conversation with them to withdraw, because I think it's moot at this moment.
I'll second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second to postpone this item for our next council committee meeting, but with the understanding, Councilman, of your request to speak to the party that put this resolution in to withdraw it.
Yes.
Okay. And motion has been made and properly seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes. And through you, Mr. Chair, the reasoning why I feel that it's moot is because I believe this was drafted prior to the already negotiated 2.7 mil that we already included or adjusted for the HPD for retainer to retain our officers, and I think that was the the concept of this resolution.
Okay. Yeah, Councilman Gill.
And I would just add that I think it's the proponents of the motion. It would be helpful if the proponents of the motion were here to support their and you know, enlighten us as to exactly what they may have had, what other issues they may have had in mind. I mean, I'm not opposed to a robust conversation about this, but it seems like it's a conversation that should be led by the proponents of the resolution.
No, I agree, and also too, getting into, we have to be careful as policymakers to getting into contract negotiations because we have no idea as to what's actually happening on the ground as the rank and file members do, and also to the interaction with the command staff. So we have to draw a very fine line regarding that. So any other discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of postponing this item, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. The ayes have it, and this item is postponed. The next item on our agenda is a resolution requesting that the Director of Emergency Services and Telecommunications, along with Hartford's Chief Operating Officer, provide an updated report at the next scheduled Quality Life and Public Safety Committee meeting on the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, AFG, which goes back to our meeting on March 8th of this year. And this was introduced by myself and Councilman Sanchez, and we do have Director Webster here. Take it away, please.
Good evening, Majority Leader, Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding the cutover to the Motorola radio system. We did complete the cutover on Tuesday, April 27th, which was the addition of 2 radio consoles in the Communication Center to provide connectivity to the state of Connecticut core and utilize the fire department's new Motorola radios and firefighter accountability system. So that was successfully completed on the 27th of April. So we are almost 3 months into it, and so far we've been having some hiccups along the way, but we've been able to deal with any of the issues. So far, so good. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the radios.
Thank you for that, Director Webster. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So, Director, you mind if I call you Susan?
Not at all.
Okay, Susan. So this upgrade or the code over includes the emergency response system, correct?
No, nope. We did upgrade to a new computer-aided dispatch system and records management system for the police department. The computer-aided dispatch system did include the fire department, the whole public safety system was upgraded. The ERS was a purchase of the fire department, and that's how they actually conduct and do all their reporting. We do have an interface that was purchased between our CAD system, which is Central Square, and the fire department's reporting system.
So the RMS, the record management system, is that equivalent to the ERS? Or so the RMS is HPD, correct?
That's correct. Central Square RMS, correct.
Okay, is that equivalent to the ERS?
It provides the same function for the fire department. That's correct. It's not the same vendor, so we have provided an interface between our Central Square CAD system and the fire department's ERS system.
Okay, and then with the RMS for HPD, did this include the what you call the little pads for them to write the reports and incorporate it into the system?
So the police department has mobile data terminals within their vehicles, and we did supply the software in the mobile data terminals for the officers to utilize. The police department themselves purchased the equipment, the mobile data terminals, as did the fire department. And what we did was, with this upgrade, was produce the software that allows them to work in their vehicles.
Okay, and then the communication with the radios, one of my concerns, as we know, is when they're in the brick and mortar. This is both HFD and HPD. When they're in a facility or a manufacturing building, or even a single family or multi-family home, how is the communication from within those homes? Because I continue doing some research, and my understanding now is that with these new products now that we have in the 20th century, a lot of these products also blocks out signals and does make it more difficult. So what's the any issues and what's the hiccups?
Sure. No, there are definitely issues with buildings that have very thick concrete, and we've had that for years. We are in the process of putting out the RFP, which has already hit the streets, for a new public safety radio infrastructure that will also include the other departments within the city, DPW, the public school system. So that RFP is on the streets. And what we're looking to do is upgrade our current radio infrastructure, which is definitely old. It's about 40 years old. And we're looking to upgrade that to a new state-of-the-art public safety radio system. It might not correct all of the outstanding problems that we have. There's going to be problems in these types of buildings no matter what we do, unless we have a radio tower at every corner, which obviously we can't do. But our intention is to improve the radio system within the city, so we do have better connection with both fire and law enforcement.
And my next question, and I'm sorry to bombard you with all these questions, but is there any responsibility on the property owner that has these structures similar to 777 Main Street? Do they have a responsibility to install equipment for themselves so that we can assist them?
That's a great question. What we're doing right now with the Hartford schools is we're putting in devices within that school system that will amplify the signal. So all of our public schools, as they're going through improvements, are getting those BDAs, they're called. They're going to get those devices installed in the school systems so we can reach anybody inside that building. Some of the older buildings in the city, yes, we absolutely have those issues. We can look to put an ordinance in place that makes anybody that comes in the city, does any type of renovation or existing buildings, put those devices within their buildings so we can have better radio signals within those buildings. Today, within the city of Hartford, we do not have that.
Okay, has there been any communication with the owners of those properties, the towers that we have in downtown?
No, not to my knowledge. There has not.
Okay, is there any plan to have that communication with them? Shelbourne and the Nordstrom, other property owners that have these tall buildings that I'm pretty sure is going to limit the signal inside the building.
We can certainly do that with those property owners for sure.
Okay, because I feel that they also are responsible, for any kind of rescue service that they expect us to do, but they have to do their part as well, right?
Sure.
So I'm done with my question, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Director West.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions from the rest of the committee? All right, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the updates from Director Susan at ESNT. I want to also thank you for all your hard work working with the HFD and HPD to get this system up and running. And I look forward to getting more updates as we move along. And I'm looking forward to having the best technology, best tech communication system in the city and the state of Connecticut.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I second the motion to accept the report with commendations.
Thank you. The motion has been made and properly second. This is actually resolution, right? Or does this?
It's a resolution requesting and requiring that we get an update from ESNT.
Right. So I just want to have clarification. We don't need to send this back to council for action. It's just a committee update.
I think,
Yes.
I think, Mr. Chair, it would be appropriate to send back to council a report of what we heard. So, and then council could just simply receive the report.
Okay. So that would be noted in the committee's report for the next council meeting. All right. So motion has been made to accept the report with accommodations and it's been seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of acceptance of this report? Aye. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Director Webster. We thank you for your time and your service. And so next on our list is an update regarding from the Hartford Police Department and who's going to be steering the ship today.
Yeah, so Assistant Chief Medina is going to give you the crime report. Unfortunately, I'm at the my mom's in the hospital, so I'm at she's fine, but she fractured a vertebrae in her back. So I'm there, but I'm on the phone in case you got any questions for me. But Chief Medina is going to take away the presentation portion.
Thank you, sir, and the best wishes to your mother and a speedy recovery.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
AC Medina, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Clark, Councilman Sanchez, LeBron, and Gail. Thank you for having us this evening. If I'll be able to, I'd like to share my screen here so we can start our presentation here. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. All right. All right. So for the agenda for this evening for us, for the police department, our police department, give you a quick update on our CompStat. And then we'll go into the homicide investigation or the homicide that occurred yesterday morning and then our arrest activity we're going to touch on. So as you can see here, this week last year, we're up 21% in Part 1 crimes compared to last week of this year. What's driving that uptick is our auto thefts, larcenies, burglaries, and the sexual assault, which is 1 from last year, as you can see on that screen there. We're +2 in shootings compared to last year, 8 to 10. Over that 28-day period, as you can see, comparison, we're down 43 Part 1 crimes compared to last year, which is that reduction of 11% in Part 1 crimes compared to this time last year. Overall, citywide, we are down 8.2% or 8% in Part 1 crimes, but we still have a lot of work to do. You know, unfortunately, we're going to touch on the urban string homicide. That's our 21st homicide of the year. 1 homicide is 1 too many, and 21 is definitely too many at this point in time. We're down 49% in robberies, 26% in aggravated assaults, 30% in burglaries, and a slight uptick of 1% in larcenies, and once again, 6%. I'll just round up in auto thefts. Auto thefts are hurting us, especially in the citywide. I was going to say the South End, but it is a citywide issue of us recovering vehicles that are stolen outside the city and brought to this city for use for other nefarious activities. So touching on yesterday's homicide, officers responded to 25 Irving Street for an unresponsive party. Eventually, there was a victim located on the side of the residence, and it was 21-year-old Brian Oliver of 97 Vine Street, which was pronounced deceased. Initial responders, police responded to the scene. They secured the scene, and major crime detectives came in to take on the investigation. That is an ongoing active investigation. There's very limited information. There's quite a few theories out there about what occurred, but I just really don't want to touch on those right now because, like I said, that is an active investigation. On June 2nd, Robert Smith of 70 Sterling Street, he was arrested, charged with the murder of 30-year-old Street Ruff, which that homicide occurred on June 2nd at 87 Irving Street. On July 14th and July 18th, Omar Reyes of 37 Martin Street and Edwin Roman of 353 Garden Street were arrested for the murder of 56-year-old Sylvia Cordova. That homicide occurred on June 9th, 2021. And I can't go without saying, unfortunately, we do have these homicides, but our major crime division, or actually our whole entire investigative service bureau, have been doing outstanding solving these homicides. The work they put in, bring these accused people to justice is phenomenal. Bring closure, some closure to the families. It's phenomenal. On June 10th, 2021, Aubrey Perry of 300 Palm Street was arrested. He was charged with the murder of Trelique Ward. That homicide occurred on June 9th, 2021. I don't know if you have any questions, you can stop me anytime. Feel free. On June 19th, Tyrone Smith of 11 Alden Street and Gerard Santiago of 55 Canaan Road of East Hartford were arrested on charges related to the murder of 52-year-old Dwayne Saunders. And that homicide occurred on June 19th at Alden Street. And on June 23rd, Chan Williams Bay of 65 Winchester Street was arrested on charges related to the murder of 37-year-old Darth Lake Sudan. And that homicide occurred on June 23rd at Bedford Street. One of the more recent ones we just had, which occurred yesterday, July 19, 2021, officers responded to the area of 166 Kensington Street on a report of an individual shot. That victim sustained a non-life-threatening gunshot wound to his leg. That was captured on C4 cameras, and approximately 2 hours later, detectives from our VIN observed the vehicle traveling at 84, and in conjunction with the Connecticut State Police conducted a motor vehicle stop, and we were able to seize the vehicle, take one person into custody, and recover a handgun, which hopefully, will tie back to that shooting, and we'll have another arrest in that case. And there's the handgun that was recovered from the vehicle. One of our more recent shootings, where we had the 175 Nelson Street, report of a shooting. 4 victims were located suffering from non-life-threatening injuries. That incident was also captured on C4. A suspect vehicle was located fleeing the scene, and a pursuit was initiated, which ended in Windsor, where we were able to take 5 individuals in the custody safely with no injuries to the officers or the individuals. That was a unique scene out in Windsor. I mean, that pursuit went on for a while, but it ended in a residential area in Windsor. It was raining, it was muddy, and these officers were able to go ahead and with the resources and assistance from Windsor State Police and all the surrounding towns, were able to take these 5 into custody with no injuries or no use of force issues. The stolen firearm and stolen vehicle were recovered during that investigation as well. And this is just a snapshot of what we've seized in a short period of time of 6/16 to 7/20 firearms here in the city of Hartford. These do not include our gun buyback. These are actually the work. This is based on the great work of the men and women of all areas of this department. There's a total of 29 firearms for that period. Year to date, we're at 165. We're out there, our men and women are working, they're taking guns off the street, they're effecting arrests. They're doing a great job. We just got to keep pushing through with with the resources we have and the good work you're doing. So that was a quick presentation. I mean, I'm open for questions. Chief Doty's on the line for questions as well. So please.
Thank you, AC, for that presentation. Regarding the firearms seizure, has that been publicly disseminated to the media and all other community groups that works with at HPD?
Which seizure are you referring to?
The last slides that you had on the presentation.
Oh, the 29, the picture of the 29? No. But that was prepared for this presentation.
Thank you for that. I would recommend that be released to the public so that it can be shown of the public can see about the work that the men and women of the police department are doing.
We'll definitely get that out there.
Yeah, I think that is very critical right now with all the acts of violence that are taking place. It's unfortunate about that homicide yesterday. I actually saw you on the road en route over there yesterday, but I didn't want to disturb you. But thank you all for your quick response to that. I did receive some phone calls regarding that. One of my theories might be, this is one of the acts of retaliation that we have been experiencing here in the city. Oftentimes I get the question, what are the police doing? What can be done? There were some from conversations I had over the weekend, was going back to talking about some of the issues with speeding and traffic enforcement, the reckless driving, and with the juvenile behavior from juveniles regarding car theft and speeding, and some theories going back to, which I was too young to know about this, Camp Roland. Do you remember that? Yeah. So some theories such as that. So it's a lot to unravel when you deal with police and public safety. So what are some of the theories or initiatives that the police may be currently working on or looking to do? I can kind of bridge this gap between police and community to really be working cohesively to help out with some of these violent crimes that are taking place.
I'll touch on it briefly. I know Doty will like to jump in on this, but an example was yesterday evening. We met with the residents of Irving Street. It was a pre-planned meeting to discuss the issues in that area. Unfortunately, this so happened that we had a homicide yesterday morning on that street. However, it's getting back and engaging with the community once again, finding out what their needs are. We look at stats, what we just went through, but it comes down to what the perception is of the community, what they're looking for, what they want from us, and how we can get that to more interactions with our CSOs, the time of incidents that they're seeing that they occur, and how we can allocate our resources accordingly to match what the information they are giving us. We need that to build that trust between us and the community. And the more we build that trust, the more interaction we will have between both of us, and hopefully we can start, solving more crimes or preventing more crimes before they occur. Chief?
Yeah, just quickly, number one, all of our gun seizure stats, we put out in our public comm stats. So those are out in the public. Also, the Hartford Current just recently did an article. Zach Murdoch and Rebecca Lurie probably about 3 weeks ago, pretty comprehensive article about gun violence, and all of our gun seizure stats were in there too. We do put them out there, and it's just something that sometimes they get reported on, sometimes they don't. But I mean, just a number to just think about is that last year total in 2020 we seized 288 firearms total, including gun buybacks and everything. And this year, actually, as of 2 weeks ago, we were already at 213. So, the work that the officers are doing out there, I mean, we could come pretty close to doubling the number of guns that we take off the street this year. Now, you never know. You can't measure what you prevent, right? So we don't know how many shootings that we prevent by what happened last night. We had an individual involved in a shooting, and then we had that individual and the firearm in custody within 2 hours. The chase, the that Chief Medina alluded to was great work. We ended up with, we arrested some individuals that we know, Councilman Clark, you alluded to retaliation. We arrested some individuals that we know are involved in the cycle of violence and had a firearm, and that was, great work by the detectives. We've got a new rejuvenated relationship with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They've been working with us very closely, to the point that we tracked some individuals that traveled to Florida and were posting some videos with firearms, and we were able to use the ATF to secure arrest warrants for them because we knew they were on supervised release and weren't allowed to have firearms. So that shows the reach that we can have with our federal partners as we talk about the different things that we can do. Chief Medina and I were down with the state police and some local departments. I think there was a total of 10 or so local departments in the room, including the cities, not just New Haven, Bridgeport, and Hartford, but Meriden, Waterbury, New Britain, talking about some regional efforts. The state's going to make some money available for us to kind of regionalize. That money's got it's going to come from OPM. It's got some very specific uses. We were hoping to be able to use it for some technology and some equipment, but unfortunately those, that money's not going to be allocated for that, but it's more going to be allocated for personnel and overtime. But if we, are able to kind of regionalize in some of our efforts, and they specifically talked about juvenile auto theft and violent crime, and also a third bucket, which was overdose. So I came back from that meeting and shot an email out to all of our neighbors and a little beyond. It was 11 towns in total: Manchester, East Hartford, West Hartford, New Britain, Windsor, Bloomfield, South Windsor, Rocky Hill, Newington, Wethersfield, Glastonbury. These are the towns that we're seeing these stolen cars. Sometimes, folks from the city going out, taking these cars from the suburbs, bringing them back in and committing crime with them. Of those, all but 3 have gotten back to me and wanting to be part of a regional task force to address these issues. It will allow us to kind of, get our tentacles out there and assist some of these smaller towns in catching some of these folks that are in the act in those towns that are bringing those cars back to us. We have a meeting. I have a meeting with all those chiefs early next week. We're nailing down an exact day and time. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of vacation season, so I tried to have that meeting for this week. Didn't work out. But we plan on getting a task force together, and then of those towns, trying to leverage some of those same personnel in Manchester, East Hartford, New Britain, and even Bloomfield to some degree to do the same kind of thing on a violent crime level, only because those are the towns that we see associations with most often. We do have a nexus to Glastonbury and Newington and Wethersfield when it comes to the auto theft problem, not necessarily so much with the violent crime problem. So, we have some efforts underway. Obviously, all of our federal partners have done amazing things. We still have the U.S. Attorney's Office that's with us all the time. If you watch our public ComStat, we have a representative from the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney's Office with us at every ComStat, not just public ComStat. So that's a relationship that we're maintaining a strong bond with. I met with the FBI, with the Commissioner of State Police, and the other 2 big cities, Bridgeport and New Haven, about a month ago. And, the FBI provided us with a crime analyst to kind of coordinate between the 3 big cities to see if we can actually have a consistent ComStat. We all kind of report in different ways, and it's very disconnected to be able to say, hey, New Haven, how are you doing in crime, and compare it to our ComStat package. Our ComStat package, tends to be very detail oriented. Some of the other ones are more 30,000 feet. We just got the first report back from Dave Sundberg, the SAC, the special agent in charge in New Haven, that we should be seeing a draft of some of that data and being able to share consistent data in the next few weeks, which will be, huge for us to look at correlations. And then if we can kind of expand that into the cities that we are seeing direct correlations with, for us, probably the most direct is New Britain. Then we're hoping to be able to leverage some of that data and be able to kind of interrupt some of the cycles. That's the key. There are some homicides that are very personal. domestic and the like that you can't prevent. But there are some, that our efforts, as we know, with things like longevity and the like, that we can prevent, and using partners like Compass Peace Builders and Mothers United Against Violence. I showed up at the unfortunately we had a bomb threat on Monday morning at Walmart that evacuated Walmart. So Chief Medina and I kind of divide and conquered. He went up to the north end, and I went down to the south end. But I did end up out there on Irving Street, about an hour or so after we had everything secured, and both Compass Peace Builders and Mothers United Against Violence were out there. So we got to interact with the family a little bit, and that I think is helpful to the family, and it's also helpful to us because it creates a bridge for information sharing, which is key. So not to go too much further into it, but those are just kind of some of the things. I did send out that email of kind of the summer initiatives and what we were doing to kind of try to prevent violent crime and also quality of life issues like Wethersfield Avenue and Franklin Avenue, as we all know. The meeting last night was very productive. We're going to work with the Upper Albany NRZ and actually, put officers out there with them to do some block walks and stuff, especially in the area of like Irving and Albany, that park that's right there. Well, it's not really a park. It's like a city-owned, where our substation used to be. They're having a lot of issues there. So we're now that we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, that was an in-person meeting, which was great to have. There was food, which is always fun. I think it's great. Pastor AJ Johnson actually was there with us and kind of facilitated that. So I think it's great that we're able to kind of get back out there into the community. That should help us, build up some of those trusting relationships where we can get information that could prevent some of this violence, and that's the goal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was unable to attend that meeting because we had our OMVGA meeting, so I did miss out on that.
You missed out on good food.
Yeah.
That was real. It was really good food. Empanadas. Oh yeah.
Oh really? Oh really?
They didn't mess around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Next time. Let me know when the follow-up meeting is, so make sure that we're there.
Yeah, I'll text you.
Thank you. But no, thank you for that update. Some of the things I've been thinking about was regarding, increased walk beats around some of the hot zone areas. I think is critical right now. Regarding, traffic enforcement, I would love to see what additional ways we can, have traffic out to help out with some of this reckless vehicular behavior that's going on. One of the examples, in addition to Tower Avenue, is on Windsor Street, which we have discussed before. And I know DPW is trying to look to see how, if there's enough traffic to put up a stoplight right there at the corner of Windsor and Sanford Street. Obviously, around my neck of the woods, there's still some issues. So I know that we can be stretched thin, which leads me to the question as to how much support do we have from the DMV for them to come in to assist us with traffic enforcement. And I correct me if I'm wrong. I know that they usually will come in on the weekend, but from what I'm seeing and the phone calls I'm receiving is that, this is taking place all throughout the week. So I'm not sure if they are specifically only dedicated for weekends. But if that's a cost on the city's dime, I think we need to have a further discussion about that, how we can allocate some funds for that. So I go back to the question: is that something that they actually only assist on the weekend, or is that something that we can discuss for additional means of support during the course of the week?
Predominantly, we've used them on the weekends only because one of the key things that got us involved with the Department of Motor Vehicles is just the inspections that they're able to do on some of these like street racer type cars. Their knowledge of the equipment related violations is far more extensive than our police officers. Our police officers are generally focused on moving violations, if you don't stop for a stop sign, that, that's breaking the law. They don't necessarily know, we don't have tint meters. We don't have the decibel meters for the exhaust. We don't know, like, if your tire sticks out so many inches beyond your fender, if that's a violation. So that's where the Department of Motor Vehicle really comes in handy. They're a force multiplier for sure when they give us a few people. Unfortunately, in the last 3 months or so, they have not been able to come into the city. They are a state resource, and their primary function is commercial motor vehicle enforcement. So making sure that all these trucks and trailers that are ripping through the state, are safe and don't wipe out 5 cars because their brakes don't work. There's been plenty of tragedies here in Connecticut where, that's kind of the DMV's focus. So we do ask, but it's hard. The state police also, we've had them come in and help us with, especially, traffic enforcement is kind of their forte. But they're so short on numbers that they've basically said in the beginning of the year that they weren't able to provide us with any kind of assistance like that. We had the same issue last year with the state police. And remember, we leveraged the investigative functions like the statewide auto theft task force and the statewide narcotics task force. Those task forces are still helping us. But as far as uniformed, officers and cruisers to do traffic enforcement, we're kind of stuck with what we have. And as you know, our numbers aren't anything to write home about either. We're under 400 now for the first time in a couple of years. We snuck our way up to 430 and change. At the beginning of 2020, and as law enforcement goes, we're losing officers, and so is everybody else. We're hoping that the change in the pay cycle is going to assist in retention. We have a class in right now of 20 that graduates, in December. I'm trying to get a second class in overlapping in October to get these, numbers up for next summer. But, it's a challenge right now. It's not a profession that people are beating down the door to get into. And the reasons that people are leaving seem to be expanding, I just don't want to work in an urban environment. I want to go to work in Wethersfield or Newington, or, and even some of these smaller departments are seeing transitions. People are just very transient right now. I talked to the Neil Dreyfus, the chief in Cheshire. He was an assistant chief here, one of my mentors coming up through the ranks.
Yeah,
I just talked to him a week or two ago, and you're talking about a 40-person department. He's lost 4 officers. When you do the ratio, and those officers, they have a 401k. Those officers are going to departments with, pension systems. So there's a plethora of reasons that some of these younger people seem to be department shopping, and I've never seen it before. But I've read some articles recently about, that this could get worse before it gets better, based on some of the research folks are doing. So, I mean, we're kind of trying to make it, trying to make it as good a work environment as we can, using the cultural analysis as a guide. We just had a meeting today for a kind of a touch up on that, where the researchers are going to come back in and kind of see where we're at. Coming up on that 1-year anniversary, I told everybody I wanted to do kind of a relook at that and at the 1-year mark, which we're going to do, and hoping to see a report out of that in September. We just had our first meetings with the researchers today. So, we're keeping at it to try to figure out ways to keep people here, trying to, share the burden of the call-ins. But, at the end of the day, we have to put cops in the cars to answer 911 when people call. And I know we constantly talk about, traffic enforcement, and we've got our numbers are incredible for car stops, but it just seems like many things right now in society, violent crime being one, auto theft issues, especially with juveniles, being one, and just general reckless driving, being one. It's just worse this year than I've seen it in a long time. And so we'll keep it up. As we get, I encourage you to send me, those emails that say, hey, can you take a look at this intersection? Because that helps us, hear from folks like you did today, Councilman Clark. We were able to, send some folks over there and try to calm things down a little bit for the, I think it was it a blood drive?
It was a vaccine clinic.
Okay. So, we'll keep that up. You're not bothering us by sending us, ideas of where we see some of the reckless driving. The more eyes out there, the better. So, I just encourage you to keep giving us that information, and we'll keep addressing it as best we can, until we can hopefully bolster those numbers back up, and try to expand the traffic division and do some things that I'd love to do. I just wish I had 50 more cops, and it's not for lack of trying. Between the mayor and the council, you've been approving, the increases. It's just now an issue that's like nationwide in getting folks into the uniform.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I appreciate it. We can go on and on about ideas and strategies, and I actually going to be reaching out to you. I have some ideas as to some community conversations we can have, especially since I was out in the city over the weekend, and just some folks coming to me and shelving out some ideas such as that Camp Roland situation, which I didn't know anything about, but it was just ideas that they were flushing out that used to work in the past, and they want to revisit it. So I'll be reaching out.
I'll send you some information about Camp Current. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So that I actually reached out to some of the fraternal orders and the union and a bunch of folks, and the police department sponsored a bunch of kids to go to the Channel 3 Kids Camp and Camp Current. And actually Chief Medina worked to provide them with a bunch of our toys. So, our emergency response team is over there. Our Marine division is going over there. Bomb squad. And they have a whole law enforcement day. So there are camps like that go on still. I didn't know that Camp Roland was still going. But
I don't think it is.
They changed the name with the new governor. So it goes from Camp Roland to Camp. Now it's probably Camp Lamont.
But I can't believe they would still call it Camp Roland.
It's Camp Lamont now, probably. They change it when the new governor comes in.
Right? Yeah, no, I was completely I'm like, what is that? I'm like, I'm still young, so I was not familiar with that. But no, I know Councilman Sanchez wants to get in here. So I'll reach out to you later, and thank you very much for your support.
Thanks.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. You guys talk a lot.
Oh, really?
Just kidding. So,
calling the kettle black here or what?
I'm glad you said it, Councilman Gale.
Kidding me?
So, Majority Leader Clark asked quite a few of the questions that I had in mind, but I just want to ask a couple of them. As far as the guns that were confiscate, whatever, that was taken off the streets, do we know how many of them are imported into Connecticut? And also the perpetrators, how many are they? Are they from Hartford? Are they from out of town coming into Hartford?
So most of the folks that we arrest, I would say the majority of them are from Hartford. But the guns are not. A lot of our guns come from down south, Georgia, Florida. A lot of them are straw purchases. We have the ATF that actually tracks every single gun that we recover, and they bring us back, all the information that we need, and then we work with them to see if we can interrupt those guns coming in to the city. Actually, Chief Howell and I had a meeting only because this was somebody from New Haven that worked with him in his previous life as a New Haven police officer that now works for the ATF. So we had a meeting with ATF about that, and they've got some good success tracking some of these straw purchasers back to the states where these guns are coming from. But I can get the exact numbers, but I would say that as high as 80% of our guns are coming from out of state, whether it be to the north, our friends to the north in New Hampshire, where the gun laws are pretty much non-existent, down to like I said, some of the southern states. And then we've also seen about 3 times more. I think we were up to about 9 or 10 ghost guns this year, which are obviously completely illegal. The homemade variety is essentially what a ghost gun is. It's untraceable. They use different kind of parts from different places, and some of them actually have some 3D stamped parts that you can't trace. So that's something that's on the rise as well.
All right. And then Now, community court, what's the status with the community court?
They have finally opened.
They are.
Yeah,
Finally.
they opened, what, Chief Medina, second week with the 12th?
July 12th. July 12th, yes.
So we've been working closely with, Tom O'Brien to prioritize cases. He's, obviously they have a 14 to 16 month backlog. But, he's really focusing on the folks that have multiple arrests in that last year or so, to prioritize the prosecutions of those folks, and also prioritize the quad and ATV arrests. We are running out of room for the quads and ATVs that we've been taking off the streets. So he's been working very close with us. We're very glad to have him back up and running.
And as far as the quads, and aren't we crushing those vehicles?
Well, so you can't until the case is adjudicated, which is why we were stuck with all these things, because the cases weren't going to court. And Tom O'Brien is the one that, that worked with us to get that ordinance up and running, and to get the ability to crush those things. So, but we couldn't crush them until the case has been adjudicated. Imagine if we crushed one and somebody was found not guilty or something. So, we've been working with him, and he's helping us clear that stuff out. But they don't go back to the owner. They haven't done that. We've been housing them, and obviously we're running out of room.
Okay. So just moving on. So as now community relations and improvement, how's that coming along?
I mean, it's like I said, as we start coming out of the pandemic and the officers can get back out there and get into these in-person meetings, I think it's improving. I think it took a hit for a number of reasons. One, George Floyd, that crushed a lot of trust and relationships, and people were very frustrated, and it's a small world now with social media and electronics, and I think that hurt us. And the fact that hit us at a time when we really couldn't get out there and do some damage control as a department because of COVID made it even worse. So I think it was a perfect storm to have us take steps backwards. But we all kind of acknowledge that. And like I said, we had a great meeting last night. We're starting to see some of these meetings pop up that are in person, where we can sit across the table from folks. I don't think you build a trusting relationship through Zoom. It's just not easy to do. So, and again, a lot of the quality of life problems that people tend to rely on the police department for, we weren't really able to effectively address the quality of life violations without community court. So I think a lot of these chess pieces are going back on the board, and we'll be able to move it forward.
All right, and then now, in this question, obviously, for AC Medina, I believe you run operations, right? And Chief Doty. So since we passed the amended food truck ordinance, and of course with the help of the rain, but I believe that it was the efforts from the HPD and the amendment of that food truck. How's the situation has been? I've been driving around myself on the weekends and during the weekdays, but mostly weekends. I've been looking around, and it seems to have suddenly changed. It did a complete turnaround with the exception of maybe a couple of pocket little groups that tried to start doing the same flash mob kind of situation. How's that coming along?
I mean, just based on you compare the prior weekends. I mean, you drive around and you see the difference. I'm already out there on Weathersfield Ave and Franklin Ave and Maple Ave. I mean, every little bit helps by moving them and putting them in locations that they're still accessible, but they're away from some of these areas, so they're not gathering, and helps us. So it's been very beneficial for us at this time.
Okay. Chief Doty?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Chief Medina. I mean, for those that, we have this discussion all the time where folks like to say, well, do you really need more cops? Do more cops make a difference? I mean, we were putting, between 80 and 100 police officers in the Southeast District of the city on Franklin Avenue, Weathersfield Avenue, which, that was not we wore the cops out. I mean, putting them out there, but we went from unlivable neighborhoods to what you're seeing now. And I mean, that was a full court press between Memorial Day and July 4th. We used DPW, we used other resources, we used parking authority, fire department, and we had everybody, the ES&T, Sue Webster chipped in with some dispatch help. But that was, we set the tone, and we've backed off on it a little bit just because we just can't sustain that. We'll burn our cops out. And actually, Chief Medina sent me a good article about that from Chicago. That's a very interesting article that maybe he can pass along. I mean, it made a big difference. I mean, you just have to drive around Wethersfield Avenue and Franklin Avenue, and then look back to some of those pictures that we had from previous weekends. It's the cops did a great job of going down there. And I think the most important thing about that is they did that with minimal impact to the residents and the businesses along Franklin and Wethersfield Avenue. That was strategic. It was intelligence led. It wasn't that, we went out there and threw a net over the neighborhood, and even the residents were, had to deal with the headaches of dealing with the police. I think it was a model that we will, I hope we never have to use it again, but it certainly worked. And I give credit to Assistant Chief Medina and to Gabe Loriano and Ian Powell and the lieutenants, Lieutenant Creeder and Lieutenant Reynolds, that worked so hard down there. The sergeants, Sergeant Gustis, and Sergeant Morrow and everybody that chipped in down there. But that was a game changer. It's good to see when you have a positive impact like that. And we've gotten so many emails and compliments about how people can sleep now. And I do think the food truck ordinance helped. When that ordinance changed, it gave us some teeth, and the food trucks actually started to listen to us, and they knew that we had a little bit more kind of influence than maybe they thought we did. And so I think that's become something where they can make money and not erode the quality of life of the residents. And that's really where we wanted to go. Now we've got, we do have some gas stations that we got to work on. And I know that ruffles some feathers sometimes, but look, the key thing is public safety and livable neighborhoods. And that's what we will continue to focus on. Obviously I'm not afraid to ruffle feathers. So, it is what it is.
Right, and thank you for all that. And I personally want to thank you and Assistant Chief Medina and the leadership at HPD for the rough times for your hard work through rough times. I mean, you guys got hit triple with George Floyd, the pandemic, the flash mob. It was even I thought it was probably the end of the world. The situation that I saw, in the situation I saw my HPD go through, and you guys are human as well, right? So I really I commend you guys for your leadership and for making decisions that's not popular. I also commend the police department and its officers for all their hard work. Although many may be disgruntled, I'm not happy with the letter that was put forth. I'm pretty sure it's just out of frustration and confusion. But all of you, leadership and the entire HPD, did a great job. I also received texts, phone calls. People pulled me over because I spent so many nights and weekends just looking, recording, taking pictures of the whole situation. Business owners are extremely happy. The residents that live there are extremely happy. It's just, they're just, I think you made their life so much more livable, but I believe you gave them so much more hope because they were at the end of their strings as far as hope is concerned. So thank you so much, guys.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I don't anticipate getting too many Christmas cards this year, but I took this job knowing it wasn't a popularity contest. So, we'll continue to do what we think is right. We'll continue to listen to the community and listen to our officers and balance, balance managing the department. I got a great support staff with Assistant Chief Medina, Assistant Chief Howell and really everybody. I mean, the mid managers, the lieutenants really stepped up in some difficult times, and the outcomes were beyond expectations. I mean, when you think about all the protests that we dealt with, just shy of 200, 199 protests last year, one arrest. I'm sorry, 2 arrests. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, other places just aren't seeing that, and that's a testament to the work. So I know, officers can get disgruntled, and I know, they need an outlet too, but I can't say enough about the work that the men and women of the police department do on a daily basis. So,
I agree.
I'll just Chief Medina and I'll just send each other Christmas cards. We'll be fine.
So I'm done with my questions. I tried to make mine short.
Oh, really? So since that, I believe concludes questions. Councilman Gill, you have any questions?
Oh, far be it from me to interject here.
Thank you both, Chief Thodi and AC Medina, for your presentation and Q&A. Councilor LeBron, you're here. You would like to say anything? Yes, no?
No, I'm all set. Thank you for all the efforts. I also seen the community in the South End and the food truck ordinance, I believe, had a part of it, but most of it was because of the department. And thank you. As I was at an event this weekend where folks said they were able to sleep now, particularly this one family that had an autistic child that had wasn't sleeping for the month of June. So thank you.
Thank you so much. The work still continues, but we thank you thus far. Sorry about that. For your efforts. I think that was a sign to say it's time to go. But the night is still young. You have some time back, and so thank you again. So this does conclude the Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee meeting for our regular scheduled date on today, July 20th, 2021. So we want to wish you a very safe and good night. Please continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.